he is an anomaly. And he is an anomaly because in the 50s and 60s, he shot with 35mm Kodachrome film, which gives you a transparency. The way that you generally view it is in someone's living room on a slide projector and you fall asleep. So what Fred did over a period of 40 or 50 years is he photographed using this slide film and stubbornly refused to change.
Well, it's a great story. Someone who's been working away on a huge body of work for it to be discovered later in one's life.
The really interesting part of Fred's project is it can be seen as a photojournalist project, but it's also very much done on his own terms. He had no clients, he wasn't being paid for this. He chose how he wanted to do it.
These slides didn't have to exist solely as a slide to be projected for 2 or 3 people. Eventually, technology caught up with what he wanted to do, which was to make prints, which could be viewed by a wider audience. So that discovery was 40, 50 years in the making, a discovery that was unprecedented.
Fred Herzog.
Fred Herzog.
Fred Herzog.
He's captured a view of Vancouver that very few other cities have.
Quite revolutionary.
A magnificent exhibition.
He was very, very interested in that and what he calls the texture of the city. And at the same time, he really shows us a human occupation and how we get a sense of that lived-in city is why his pictures are incredibly interesting.
Fred in Vancouver has been recognized as someone who pioneered and chose to work in what we retrospectively see as the new field of color photography.
He was interested in looking at people and streets as an existence that's real, and part of that would be to make it in color. It's in some ways a logical step. It was something that was a very particular visual language that he was developing.
My pictures are not made to look pretty. The pictures should be historically of interest, to catch people how they really look like this. I saw it and I had to have it, and I hoped you wouldn't pull it down. By the time you were ready to pull the button, it's gone.
Yeah.
And you got to be really quick. And then I had to slow my step because the film speed was not high enough. So I had to stop for a moment, take the picture, and then walk on.
There is a local audience which looks at these pictures and sees a kind of city in its teenage years, full of hope and full of enthusiasm and full of this modern ethos that we want a sign that's 35 feet high made with neon to tell us about who we are.
He has a very kind of gentle gaze on his subject matter, and how he times his photographs in these spaces, how he stands, how he waits for light, his love of human gesture, and it's the elegance of capturing those moments through a very strong, of course, compositional sophistication that he has.
When I took all these pictures, I had a job, and then I went out in the late afternoon or on weekends, and I did too many things like everybody else. I tried to date, I raced motorcycles, and I did photography, and I traveled. And all that in my spare time.
I think today we look at Fred's pictures and we're struck by their veracity, by their authenticity, but also by their freshness and the spontaneity with which many of them were taken.
Each photograph has an edition of 20 larger prints and 20 smaller prints, of which he signs and dates twice, when he took the photograph and when he printed it. He's printed about just over 100 prints. Of those works that he's printed, several of them in both scales are completely sold out.
For Vancouverites to see pictures of the city, it was a way of kind of like going home. And I think when people saw the bustle of the city, the way the city appeared, it charged people's interest.
The work is so inspiring that it attracts an audience that will find us no matter what.